Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari
Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Giri Varadari Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parajagacharya Stottarashat Sri Śrimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Gaur Premanand Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayed Nasta Prayesha Badrishu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Before reciting the Śrimad Bhāgavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances under the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Nara, Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. And by regular attendances in Bhāgavatam class and rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Everyone can join in. You guys all know these. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhangum Mungayate Girim Yad Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurundina Taranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishvaram Hari Om Tat Sat. So today we are reading from the Canto 3 of the beautiful Śrimad Bhāgavatam, and it's called the Status Quo, and we're in the last chapter, chapter 33, the activities of Kapila, and we are in verse number 7. Very famous verse, which everyone has memorized anyways because it's so famous, so we don't even need to put it on the board. I think that's why, right? Should I put it from my laptop on there? You're working on it? Anyways, I guess just listen. Aho bata swa pachoto gariyan. Aho bato shva pachoto gariyan. Aho bato shva pachoto gariyan. Yaj jivagre vartate namatubhyam. Yaj jivagre vartate namatubhyam. Yaj jivagre vartate namatubhyam. Te pustapaste juhuvu sasnuraya. Te pustapaste juhuvu sasnuraya. Te pustapaste juhuvu sasnurarya. butchering it. You guys can help me after this. Brahmanuchurnama grinanti ete. Okay, I felt good on that one. Brahmanuchurnama grinanti ete. Brahmanuchurnama grinanti ete. Okay, I'm going to try it all line by line one more time because I wasn't satisfied. Aho bata swa pachoto gariyan yach jivagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapaste juhuvu sasnorarya brahmanuchurnama grananti ete. Aho bata swa pachoto gariyan yach jivagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapaste juhuvu sasnoraya brahmanuchurnama grananti ete. Aho bata sva pachotu gariyan yajivagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapaste juhuvu sasnorarya brahmanuchurnama grananti ete. Aho bata shva patokto gariyan yajivagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapase juhuvu snasnorarya brahmanuchurnama grananti ete. Vaishnavis? Aho bata shva pachoto gariyan yach jivagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapate juhu snasnorarya brahmanuchurnama grananti ete. Aho bata shva patokto gariyan yach jivagre vartate nama tubhyam te pustapaste juhu snasnorarya brahmanuchurnama grananti ete. I think I figured out the third line. Te pustapaste juhu snasnorarya. No? Yes, snasnorarya. No, rarya. Okay, yeah. Te pustapaste juhu snasnorarya. I was making juhuvu sound too long, and that I didn't have enough syllables to finish it in the proper meter. But okay. Well, we'll learn how, even if someone is akshara or something, they don't even know the letters and how to pronounce things right. Even if they chant the holy name, they can become better than that. Synonyms: Oho bata. Oh, how glorious. Shva pachaha. A dog eater. Ataha. Hence. Gariyan. Worshipable. Yat. Of whom? Jiva agre. On the tip of the tongue. Vartate is nama. The holy name. Tubhyam. Unto you. Tepu tapaha. Practiced austerities. Te. They. Juhuvuhu. Executed fire sacrifices. Sasnuhu. Took bath in the sacred livers. Sasnuhu. Aryaha, Aryans. Brahma Anuchuhu, studied the Vedas. Nama, the holy name. Grananti, except. Yea, Dehu, Te, your. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanted your holy name. Even if born in the family of dog-eaters, such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your lordships must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your lordship, they must have bathed at holy places of pilgrimage, studied Vedas, and fulfilled everything required. Please repeat. Oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name, even if born in the families of dog-eaters. Such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your lordship, they must have bathed at holy places of pilgrimage, studied the Vedas, and fulfilled everything required. Purport. As it is stated in the previous verse, a person who has once offenselessly chanted the holy name of God becomes immediately eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. One should not be astonished by this statement of Śrimad Bhāgavatam. One should not disbelieve or think, how can chanting the holy name of the Lord can one become a holy man compared to the most elevated Brahmana? To eradicate such doubts in the minds of unbelievers, this verse affirms that the stage of chanting the holy name of the Lord is not sudden, but that the chanters have already performed all kinds of Vedic rituals and sacrifices. It is not very astounding, for no one in this life can chant the holy name of the Lord unless he has passed all lower stages, such as performing the Vedic ritual sacrifices, studying the Vedas, and practicing good behavior like that of the Aryans. All of this must first have been done. Just as a student in law class is to be understood to have already graduated from a general education, anyone who is engaged in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, must have already passed all lower stages. It is said that those who simply chant the holy name with the tip of the tongue are glorious. One does not even have to chant the holy name and understand the whole procedure, namely the offensive, offenseless, and pure stage. If the holy name is sounded on the tip of the tongue, that is also sufficient. It is said here that Nama, a singular number, one name, Krishna or Rama, is sufficient. It is not that one has to chant all the holy names of the Lord. The holy names of the Lord are innumerable, and one does not have to chant all the names to prove that he has already undergone all processes of Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. If one chants once only, it is to be understood he has passed all the examinations, not to speak of those who are chanting always 24 hours a day. It is specifically said here, Tubhyam, unto you only, one must chant God's name, not as the Mayavadi philosophers say, any name such as a demigod or the name of God's energies. Only the holy name of the Supreme Lord will be effective. Anyone who compares the holy name of the Supreme Lord to the name of the demigods is called Pashandi, or offender. The holy name has to be chanted to please the Supreme Lord and not for any sense gratification or professional purpose. If this pure mentality is there, then even though a person is born of a low family such as a dog-eater, he's so glorious that not only has he purified himself, but is quite competent to deliver others. He is competent to speak on the importance of the transcendental name, just as Thakur Haridas did. He was apparently born in the family of Mohammedans, but because he was chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord offenselessly, Lord Chaitanya empowered him to become the authority or acharya of spreading the name. It did not matter that he was born in a family which was not following the Vedic rules and regulations. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Prabhu accepted him as an authority because he was offensively chanting the name of the Lord. Authorities like Advaita Prabhu and Lord Chaitanya immediately accepted that he had already performed all kinds of austerities, studied the Vedas, and performed all sacrifices. This is automatically understood. There's a hereditary class of brahmanas called the Smarta Brahmanas, however, who are of the opinion that even if such persons who are chanting the holy name of the Lord are accepted as purified, they still have to perform the Vedic rites or await their next birth in a family of brahmanas so they can perform Vedic rituals. But actually, that is not the case. Such a man does not need to wait for the next birth to become purified. He is at once purified. It is understood that he has already performed all sorts of rites. It is the so-called brahmanas who actually have to undergo different kinds of austerities before reaching that point of purification. There are many other Vedic performances which are not described here, and all such Vedic rituals have been already performed by chanters of the holy name. The words juhuvuhuhu means that the chanters of the holy name have already performed all kinds of sacrifices. Sasnuhu means that they have already traveled to the holy places of pilgrimage and taken part in purificatory activities at those places. They are called Aryaha because they have already finished all these requirements and therefore must be among the Aryans, or those who have qualified themselves to become Aryan. Aryan refers to those who are civilized, whose manners are regulated according to the Vedic rituals. Any devotee who is chanting the holy name is the best kind of Aryan. Unless one studies the Vedas, one cannot become an Aryan, but it is automatically understood that when the chanters have already studied all Vedic literature, the specific word is anuchuhu, which means that because they have already completed all those recommended acts, they become qualified to be spiritual masters. The very word grinanti, which is used in this verse, means to be already established in the perfectional stage of ritualistic performances. If one is seated on the bench of a high court and is giving judgment on cases, it means he has already passed all legal exams and is better than those engaged in the study of law or those expecting to study law in future. In a similar way, persons who are chanting the holy name are transcendental to those who are factually performing the Vedic rituals and those who expect to be qualified. In other words, those who are born in family of brahmanas but have not yet undergone reformatory processes and therefore expect to study the Vedic rituals and perform the sacrifices in the future. There are many Vedic statements in different places saying that anyone who chants the holy name of the Lord becomes immediately freed from conditional life, and that anyone who hears the holy name of the Lord, even though born of a family of dog-eaters, also becomes liberated from the clutches of material entanglement. Okay, ahobata shva pachoto gariyan yachji vagrevartate namatubhyam tepus tapaste juvuhus nasnorarya brahmanuchurnama grinantiete. Oh, how glorious are they whose tongues are chanting your holy name. Even if born in the family of dog-eaters, such persons are worshipable. Persons who chant the holy name of your Lordship must have executed all kinds of austerities and fire sacrifices and achieved all the good manners of the Aryans. To be chanting the holy name of your Lordship, they must have bathed at holy places of pilgrimage, studied the Vedas, and fulfilled everything required. I'm just looking for something about Vaishnavas versus Brahmins, which I just read. So where we are, like I said, we're in the last chapter of the third canto, and for many chapters, almost not the entire third canto, maybe the last 10 chapters or so, I'd have to look to see exactly. Let's see. 23 Devahuti, 22 Kardama and Devahuti, 21 conversation with Manu and Kardama. So the last 12 chapters, we've kind of been on this Kapila Dev arc, and now it's finally reached its head, the end of it. And he's said everything he has to say to Devahuti. He's taught her the perfect philosophy of theistic Sankhya. He's divided everything up, how the world works, and he's explained to her how ultimately we need to engage in devotional service, how bhakti yoga is the real way, that's the top thing. And so get excited because soon we're going to be in the 4th canto and we'll hear all about Daksha and Sati and Shiva and Dhruva and Prithu Maharaj and the Prachetas and Narad Muni. And so it's said in the verses coming up to this famous 7th verse that because she heard from Kapila, she's now free from ignorance, and so now she's expressing her realizations. And so she's giving, after hearing everything that Lord Kapila had to say, now she's giving her realizations. And so we heard the verse yesterday from Param Brahma Prabhu, and this verse was saying that when you're chanting, I guess I'll just read it exactly. Even a person born in a family of dog eaters immediately becomes eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the holy name, or chants, hears about his pastimes, offers obeisances, or remembers him. So that was in the 6th verse. And now in the 7th verse, she's bringing it even farther. Like someone who's really low, even if they just chant once, then they become qualified to perform whatever Vedic sacrifice or Vedic ritual. But now in the 7th verse, it's not saying that they just become qualified. It's saying that they were already qualified in the past, and they completed all that, and they're done with that, and they're above the person, performing the Vedic sacrifice. You can imagine some Brahmin just like pouring ghee into a sacrificial fire, and then he's like seeing some dog eater, and then suddenly the dog eater starts chanting, and then someone reminds him of this verse. He's like, what the heck? He was going to kick him out of the temple, but now he realizes, no, this is actually more qualified than me. I'm just stuck doing these rituals, but he's already more qualified. So this is one of the most powerful verses in the whole Bhāgavatam, glorifying the uplifting power of the holy name. And according to Nyaya philosophy, when we're studying a certain text, the way to tell what a text is about is you have to look in the beginning, the middle, and the end, and then what's repeated throughout. And so right now, what text are we studying? The Śrimad Bhāgavatam. And so if we look in the beginning, for example, right in the first chapter, the first thing that the sages, they're asking Sutta Dev Goswami, can you please tell us something? You're a very good disciple, and we want to hear something from you. You're the most qualified. The first thing they say after they ask him to speak is, people can attain freedom from the material world if they chant the Lord's holy name, which is feared by fear personified. Like that's the first thing and they just say that. They're not even asking. They're just they ask him, please speak something, and then they just say, oh yeah, we understand this. The holy name is good. And then, of course, in the middle, if you have 12 cantos, the middle would be like the 6th canto, right? So in the 6th canto, does anyone remember what about the holy name? A Jamil. Yeah, so we hear about a Jamil, and that's a whole huge pastime. Many verses describing the power of the holy name, and even there's different levels of dharma. Like you have your family dharma, you have your caste dharma, you have all these different things. And in Bhagavad Gita, it's talking about which dharma is higher, which dharma is higher. But there it's very clear that just even chanting the Lord's holy name once, even if you've messed up all those other dharmas, that automatically supersedes, and a Jamil gets protected by the Vishnu Dutas. They become his lawyer in the court, and they completely, utterly defeat the arguments of the Yamadutas, who are trying to say, look at this guy's a rascal, he's done all these bad things, and he was supposed to be a Brahmana, and he broke all the rules, and so now he's got to pay the consequences, and so no. And so that's in the middle. And then if you look at the very end, the exact last verse of the Bhagavatam, then that's also another beautiful thing. I think I copied it here. Last verse. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, Hari, The congregational chanting of whose holy names destroys all sinful reactions, and the offering of obeisances to whom relieves all material sufferings. So, of course, so that's the beginning, the middle, and the end. And of course, repeated throughout, as we're hearing now. This is the third canto, saying something. I'm sure you could find some glorification of the holy name almost in, maybe not every chapter, but every canto, definitely. And so people sometimes say, devotees sometimes say, like the Gita, Prabhupada is kind of phrased like this. The Gita is the degree, you know, you got your BA or your BS, you got you're graduated in the Gita. Then you go to get your master's degree, which is the Bhāgavatam. And then you get Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is, he called the PhD sometimes, or the postgraduate study of spiritual life. And so in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, what do you see there? That they're kind of basically showing what is Bhāgavatam. Like Prabhupada said, Lord Chaitanya came down like sometimes a teacher to show the child how to do that. They'll write the letters. Not that the teacher needs to write his letters to like learn his letters, but he'll show. So like that, as a good teacher, because Krishna said surrender, Bhāgavatam says, look at all these people that surrendered. So then Krishna personally comes down as the Lord Chaitanya says, look what it means to surrender, especially in Kali Yuga. So what are they doing? From my understanding, Lord Chaitanya was going out 4 hours a day on Nagar Kirtan. He was having extensive Bhagavatam hearing every single day, and he must have been chanting at least 64 rounds every day. So he's associating with the holy name so much. And then what to speak of besides that, he's glorifying the Lord with others, preaching and associating with devotees, and that's all he's doing all day. So he's showing us practically how to actually live our life. So then it brings us. That's what the Bhagavatam is about. It's about the holy name. We can bring back things further. Like sometimes kids, especially most people, it's like the cliche that the little baby kid will always just be asking why, and the parent will eventually get upset because they won't have good enough answers. But actually, I think it's amazing if you're born as the child of devotee parents, and you can just keep asking why, and they can eventually get you to the bottom of it, and they can just answer all your whys. So what if I asked everyone here, what is the point of everything? Like why? Just why?
So we can love God.
But why?
Because it'll make you happy naturally.
Okay, and we're getting to the root of things, this abundant jnana, and why will it make us happy?
That is our natural position. We're happy by nature, actually.
We're happy by nature, and what other things are we by nature? What are we by nature? Eternal what? Eternal servants. But even deeper than that, we're people. We're eternally people. We're eternally personal beings, which means eternally we have relations with one another, and especially the Supreme Lord. And like you're saying, what is that verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Jivara Sarupoi Krishnara Nitya Das. What's the next word? Something Veda Prakash? Yeah, Tatasta Shakti Veda Prakash. So we are the Tatasta Shakti of the Lord, which means we're the Vibhanamsa, the eternally separated tiny parts. Krishna also has separated other parts, like his different avatars, which are like different candles being lit by us, the first candle. Those are the same strength, but we're not like a candle. We're like a tiny little spark of the candle, but we're living beings, and we naturally are happy. Why are we happy? Because we have this eternal relationship of the Lord, and in our relationship of tiny spark to infinitesimal fire, our infinitesimal spark to infinite fire, we have a beautiful loving relationship, and that loving relationship produces rasa vaisaha. Krishna, we have like that red pamphlet we sometimes hand out, but not so much because there's way more of the blue one. What is it called? Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure. So that's Prabhupada's translation of rasa vaisaha. He's the reservoir of this rasa, because he can actually keep it going for eternity and make it continuously more and more amazing. And then so we know why everything, the point of everything is just this nice rasa that we're experiencing with Krishna, this personal relationship with Krishna and all things related to Krishna that can just keep it continuing in utter bliss. So what to do? We're not really in that rasa. We're in rasa bas, like the shadow of ras. It's whatever rasa we try to engage in this material world, because we're not Krishna, we're not the rasa vaisaha, we're not the reservoir of all pleasure. We don't understand how to properly, not that we don't understand, but we don't have the capability to properly maintain an eternal relationship with everyone. Like, I can't fulfill you eternally, even if I want to. Sorry. I mean, I could if I was in a relationship with Krishna. That's what the spiritual master is doing. He's like fulfilling everyone's desires. What did we just sing in the Guru Puja? Ye prasade puri sarva asha. All your desires, sarve ash, can be fulfilled by the mercy of the spiritual master. So he's actually fulfilling everyone's pure spiritual desires, meaning connecting them to Krishna. And so Prabhupada's mentioning, and when we hear in the third verse of the Bhāgavatam, when it's talking about how this Bhāgavatam is this rasa just coming down. One who attains full knowledge of these different rasas, which are the basic principles of activities, can understand the false representations of the original rasas which are reflected in the material world. And the learned scholar seeks to relish real rasa. Spiritual rasa, which is relished even in the liberated stage, can be experienced in the literature of Śrimad Bhāgavatam due to its being the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. By submissively hearing this transcendental literature, one can attain the full pleasure of his or her heart's desire. So we all want the full pleasure of our heart's desire, which is rasa, with Krishna and all Krishna's associates. So then, Prabhupada's explaining we have to associate, that's what the whole point of the Bhāgavatam is. Like Vyasadeva, he wrote all the Vedas, and they said, oh, this may be confusing, let me summarize them all. And he wrote Vedanta, which means, Veda just means knowledge. So he wrote all kinds of practical knowledge. And then he wrote Vedanta, anta means end. So the end of all knowledge, sutra, which is like, what is like little catchphrases, I guess. What does sutra mean? Aphorisms, yeah, aphorisms. But then it's like, I don't understand what aphorism means. So what does aphorism mean? Small little catchphrases that encapsulate a lot of knowledge. So he made the Vedanta Sutra, which is like capturing the end, all that knowledge just put into these really compact like things, like what does it all mean? And then to help us understand that, the commentary he gave was Śrimad Bhāgavatam. So we hear so many things in the Vedas, but what's the point of all that? Padma Purana directs us, and Prabhupada explains in Nectar Droshan, the principle of remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly and not forgetting Him at any moment is meant to be followed by everyone without fail. So to always remember Krishna and to never forget Krishna. If this injunction is followed, then all of the rules and regulations will automatically fall into line. All of the rules and regulations should be treated as assistants or servants to this basic principle. So the point of hearing Bhāgavatam is to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. And that the Bhāgavatam is primarily giving us, or one thing we could say is one of the main points of the Bhāgavatam as per our Nyayic breakdown of it. We could see the beginning, middle, end, and repetition through, is talking a lot about Krishna's name, the holy name. And so the Bhāgavatam is trying to give us that. And so here we see that if someone just chants the holy name once, not only are they qualified to perform sacrifices in Vedic rituals, but they've already done all the Vedic rituals in sacrifices. And so, sorry, my notes are a little in disarray. So Krishna says that here it's saying you become qualified for these Vedic rituals. And then in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said you should understand the purpose of the Vedas and not be attached to the flowery words. You know, and he's one who's just attached to the flowery words, but they don't understand the purpose, then what's the use of that? And he says famously, all purposes served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them. So what is the purpose of everything? Well, that's the regulative principles, but what's the purpose behind that regulative principle? Like, why that? Because we don't want to just remember Krishna. That's something we want to do in a deeper goal. Well, let's take it even back. Who's read Nectar of Devotion? Okay, so how many kinds of bhakti are described in there? That's process of bhakti. She got it right. So you have sadhana bhakti, then what's the goal of sadhana bhakti? She just said it. It's not prema bhakti actually, it's bhava bhakti. And then bhava bhakti matures into prema bhakti. Well, ultimately you could say it's prema bhakti. And prema is what? Like I said, what's the point of everything? Rasa. Because we're eternal spiritual beings, currently somehow situated in rasa basa, and we need to get situated in rasa proper. Shuddha rasa, I guess, not rasa bas. And so what do? We do sadhana. Sadhana is just the process by which one can attain some sort of sadhya. And so our sadhana bhakti is engaging the body and mind and senses in different ways, so that we eventually, our heart develops bhava, or natural feelings of love towards Krishna. And then that love will fructify in prema, which is just completely pure love. And then that even has more, but it's not talked about in Nectar of Devotion because it's not really practical. Like when you're on that level, it's like when someone passes through kindergarten in high school and then they finally go to college, it's like they're in a completely different building. You know, you're not going to explain very much more about what the purpose of kindergarten or high school is to someone. You know, just when you get to college, then it'll be more apparent. So when you actually have prema, then there's other stages. But practically speaking right now, we really care about sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti. We care about bhava bhakti because that's our goal. We care about sadhana bhakti because that's practically where we are and what we have to do. And so the purpose behind all the Vedas and all the Vedic rituals and all the Vedic literatures, which is summarized in Vedanta Sutra, which is explained in Śrimad Bhāgavatam, is to love Krishna. But how can you love someone without knowing them? And like Krishna even says, Sarvasya chaham hridisani visto mata smritir ganam apohanam cha. And this is the line that matters. Together. Vedaischa sarvaraham eva vedyo. So Vedaischa sarvara, all the Vedas, aham eva vedyo. Krishna's saying, that's what's the purpose of all the Vedas? To know me. Krishna's saying, aham eva vedyo. And then he says he made the Vedanta and he knows the purpose behind the Vedas. So the purpose, Prabhupada says also, the purpose of studying Vedas is to understand Krishna. Or in other words, if anyone's understood Krishna, he studied all the Vedas. So if you know Krishna and you can actually, if you know Krishna, you've already attained all the point of all the Vedas. And you don't need to be trapped by the different flowery words. And so I think in Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada also talks about the word bhajan or budge. He said the root of bhajan or budge or bhakti is budge, which means to, first they describe it as like to worship, but then Prabhupada says it's not like ritualistic, like religious worship. It's more of to respect or to regard or to love. And so if we're trying to do Krishna bhajan, it means that we're trying to actually regard Krishna for who he is. So Krishna is this amazing person, And the more that we actually know him, the more we can actually do bhajan. So the purpose of all the Vedas is just to hear about him. Like in the verse before this, utters his holy name, chants about him, hears about his pastimes, offers him obeisances, or even remembers him. So all these different Vedic rituals and different things can get summarized into you just have to hear about and know and understand the Lord. Then when you understand the Lord, you're clearing out all your misunderstandings and things which keep you from properly regarding the Lord. Like we talk about the Prabhupada saying in the purport here, it's talking about the offenses, like you shouldn't have performed offenses. Let me see if I can find it. This is a long purport. The holy name has to be chanted to please the Supreme Lord and not for any sense of gratification or professional purpose. If this pure mentality is there, even though he's born in a low family, he is so glorious that he's not only purified himself, but is confident to deliver others. Just like Haridas Thakur. Or if you compare the holy name to the names of the demigods, you're an offender. You must chant God's name, not any name, such as demigods or God's energy. And, when I was hearing that God's energy, we're more chanting with God's energy. Oh, Hare, Hara, please engage me in the service of Krishna. So, it's also to be in the context of like, yeah, we're the original Shaktas, yeah, not the shadow of Radha, which is Durga. So the Vedas has all these tangential things, but someone who's actually Vyasadeva is satisfied with the tangential things, and so that's why he made the Bhāgavatam, and that's why he eventually just, the Lord just showing the basic thing, especially in Kali Yuga, the verses we say every day, Kalar dosha nide rajan asti eka mahagunan, there's one good quality, kirtananeva krishnasya, so that the best thing you can do is kirtan, because that's, if you want to, so eventually we want to know Krishna. The more we know Krishna, we can love Krishna, and if we love Krishna, then we can revive our actual relation, our eternal relation, and then just act in that relation with Krishna, and that's the perfect life. And actually, it's not dependent on, like, you can act with Krishna and Goloka Vrindavan, but if you're on that stage of pure love, you can act in that love anywhere. Like Prabhupada was acting in that love, and he was so-called in the material world, but it wasn't the material world, because he was acting in that love everywhere he went, just transformed into Vrindavan. Like we're not here in the middle of New York stinky. We're actually here in Vrindavan, and Jagannath is here, and Radha Govinda is here, and Govardhan is here. And so wherever there's kirtan, it transforms the atmosphere. And so the whole point I've been trying to bring home, and I'll try to bring it home now, is that these two verses, if someone's chanting, they're not only qualified to do the sacrifice, but they already have done all the sacrifices, and they've reached beyond them, which is what this verse is saying. And so what is the purpose of all the Vedic sacrifices? All the Vedic sacrifices is essentially just all these tangents that Vyasadeva was putting in there. Yeah, you can do this, and you get this, and you do this, and you get this, and you do all these different sacrifices, or you do tapasya, and you get this, and then you give charity, and you get this, and you can get a good family, and you can get an easygoing life. But then what's the point of all that? The point of all that is so you can have time to do Krishna bhajan. If it gets to the point that, like, they say when you do the Vedic rituals, at the end you're always going to say something, but Krishna is the supreme, and you might say a few names of Krishna, and there you're a little bit establishing the sambandha jnana about Krishna, and so therefore the Vedic sacrifice was worth it. But we're told the chanting the holy name is much more purifying and better than the Vedic sacrifices. Like in Vrindavan, when Prabhupada was installing the deities, they had to do so many so-called rituals, but Prabhupada said actually just by chanting the holy name, doing the kirtan, that was what installed Radhe Shyam. That's what installed Gaur Nitai, and that's what installed the deities, Krishna Balaram. like Prabhupada it was remembered by his godbrother when he was getting his sannyas initiation. The Narayan Maharaj, the pujari doing the offering, the fire sacrifice, was trying to say all these mantras, na 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 swaha, na na swaha, and like Prabhupada's other godbrother, Prabhupada's godbrother was giving him sannyas, and his other godbrother was chanting, doing kirtan during it, because during the sacrifices you always do kirtan. So the pujari was requesting the kirtan to be like down a little bit so they could say the mantras, and that's generally what's happened, is that sometimes when they want to say the mantras, they say, okay, pause the kirtan, let's say the mantras, and then start the kirtan again. But then Prabhupada, like, humorously and like seriously was like, no, you be louder and then let the mantras be quieter, because he understood this point that all these different fire sacrifices and austerities, they're at a lower level, and that the only point of doing them, if you actually perfect all the study of Vedic aksharas and sacrifices and all these kind of rituals, then you have reached actual knowledge of Krishna. And when you reach knowledge of Krishna, Krishna says, one who is factually convinced of the opulence and mystic power of mine engages in devotional service. And the wise who perfectly know that I'm the source of everything engage in my devotional service. One could understand me only by devotional service. So they're just saying you have to actually get into this sadhana bhakti, or devotional service. Well, devotional service is both the sadhana bhakti and sadhya. It just gets better and better. So for one who doesn't know, if you perform devotional service, then you can come to know. And then once you know, then you'll be able to really worship Krishna purely, and your devotional service will be even better. And so that's why the Devahuti, after she learned the glories of devotional service from Kapila, her realization was that once they actually know you, like they know you enough to like want to actually chant your name, and if they can chant your name even once purely, that means they know you well enough that they've surpassed all the point of all these things Vyasadeva has made in the Vedic rituals, and they're in the highest, they're in the highest class of Aryan, and it's not like Hitler said, oh, the Aryans are just this blue-eyed, blonde-haired, whatever, and Prabhupada dispelled that. Like, no, it's not. He kind of took that and made it his own thing for his propaganda, which I guess was useful for his purposes. But really, Aryan just means someone that's like a gentleman, that's actually able to follow the manners and the culture of the Vedas, which just means that they're not going to just destroy, what's going on, killing others and making others suffer. They're actually going to make everyone blissful. When you follow the proper culture, everyone becomes blissful. And so to be chanting your holy name, they must have bathed at all holy places of pilgrimage, studied the Vedas, and fulfilled everything required. And so that's her glorious realization. And when we're chanting, we should try to come to know Krishna better. It's said in the Kalpa, I can't remember, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, Kalpa something Kalpa, I can't remember. But it's talking about the marketplace of the holy name and how that's right, Godruma Kalpatavi. And in there he's saying how your holy name is worth more depending on how much you know Krishna. And Prabhupada and the different acharyas tell us, if you just saying Krishna's name, that's wonderful, but Krishna's name imbued with Krishna's form is more wonderful. Krishna's name imbued with Krishna's form and qualities is even more wonderful, and Krishna's name imbued with his form, qualities, and pastimes is the most wonderful out of those. So as we know Krishna more and more, his name gets connected with more and more things and becomes this more powerful. It becomes so powerful that the Maha-Bhagavat devotee, when they chant Krishna's names, they can inculcate like full bhakti just into the hearts of everyone around them. Like Srila Prabhupada, I made your good fortune. He could just take, people, I guess his even if they hear, like Prabhupada's, Devahuti is saying, even if they once utter the holy name, but if they hear the holy name from someone who's really immersed in Krishna, those vibrations will also cause them to become eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. So there's a few minutes left, and I want to hear some of your all's reflections and comments and questions.
One question was coming to mind based on this verse, and actually I was listening to Dasa, who spoke on gave class here recently. He was mentioning how, we hear Lord Chaitanya's conversation with Ramananda Roy, and he's saying, his Varnashram and Dharma, he's like, not that. And he gives some different levels to what is actually the highest goal of life. And so we tend to think, okay, so these rituals, this Varnashram is not important for us, so we're just doing Krishna Bhakti. But then Mukunda Dasa, who said in that class that, no, actually we need the elevated process. We still need the elevated process of Varnashram. We need it. And actually, sometimes this attitude kind of comes like devotees thinking, no, I'm pursuing pure bhakti, so rules and regulations, this is lower. This is lower stuff. Why do I have to follow these rules and regulations? If I'm trying to get Krishna bhakti, if I'm trying to do pure bhakti, why should I follow the lower rules and regulations? And it's kind of like almost this Sahajiism kind of comes where people are going above their adhikar. So you could speak on that. Why it happens?
One thought that comes to mind is that when you actually doing bhakti, you're supposed to be increasing your humility. And so if your humility is actually increasing, you'll see, I actually need all these systems that Krishna has put in place so that I can maintain my consciousness, so that I can actually think of Krishna. Think of Krishna as no small feat. Think of Krishna as the most elevated, amazing thing. And all of Varnashram Dharma is made, there's Varnashram Dharma and there's Daivi Varnashram Dharma, which is like, Varnashram, everyone's naturally just going to be, everyone's just, it says in Kali, everyone's born a Shudra, but, the different, different levels have been co-opted by the demoniac civilization. You have your demented brahmanas teaching people atheism and all these other nonsensical things. And you have your demented Vaishyas making all the food poison and messing with all the banking stuff, so everyone just can't live properly because there's not enough wealth. You have your demented Kshatriyas that are just pushing for non-stop war, and you have your demented Shudras who are just wasting their life. Practically you can just see most people in New York that you'll see on the street are a demented form of Shudras. So if we actually put forth a basis of this culture, that's, if we're doing bhakti, it said we should accept everything favorable and reject everything unfavorable. You should only reject the rules when it's unfavorable, which only comes in very specific circumstances, very elevated people, like at the level of bhava, then a lot of these things don't matter. But in the level of sadhana bhakti, sadhana means you don't have it. You don't have bhakti. You're trying to get bhakti. You're doing a little bit, but you don't have it. You're trying to get there. So Prabhupada said in the later, especially the later times, he was really emphasizing Varnashram Dharma because he was seeing how left and right his disciples were falling down and not able to properly think of Krishna. So we should consider these things when we're thinking we should give them up, not just give them up whimsically. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Hari Om Tat Sat. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vyasadeva ki jai, Radha Govinda ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai.